Good evening and welcome. Tonight's meeting is being conducted virtually by Zoom webinar and is being live streamed on the City of Milton's Facebook page. Please note the only active videos and microphones will be that of our panelists, which includes the mayor, council members, and city staff. All attendee videos will be disabled and will remain disabled for the duration of the meeting. All microphones will be muted except for the mayor's call for public comment. At that time only, and when notified, the moderator will unmute your microphones to allow you to speak. Attendees joining the meeting who wish to make a public comment may do so by using the raise hand feature. For Zoom app users by computer, tablet, and smartphone, the raise hand feature is located at the bottom of your screen. Click raise hand. Callers using telephones can access the raise hand feature by using the phone keypad. To raise hand, press *9. To unmute, press *6. Please do not use the raise your hand feature until the mayor calls for and announces the appropriate time for public comment. The Q&A function found at the bottom of your screen can be used for procedural questions regarding the Zoom app only. Chat with panelists and other questions are prohibited for tonight's meeting. The meeting will now begin. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Thank you, Stacy. So I'd like to call the virtual regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, May 18th, 2020 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to comment on any item on the agenda, then you may do so by public comment. There will be two opportunities for public comment on tonight's agenda. One during general public comment, and two during new business. The moderator will provide public comment instructions at that time. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to request to make a comment up until the clerk calls the agenda item. Once the agenda item is called, there's no more comment requests can be accepted. So the city clerk, please call roll for tonight's meeting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the May 18th, 2020 regular meeting. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Laura Bentley.
Here.
Councilmember Carol Cookerly.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Morick.
Here.
And for the record, Councilmember Longoria is absent. And now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I want to welcome everybody here tonight, even though we're all in different places and we are virtual. Hopefully we'll get back to normal here pretty soon. Will our city clerk please sound the next item, Sudie?
Our next item is approval of the meeting agenda. Agenda item number 2134.
Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda item number 20-134.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Moore and with a second from Councilmember Morig. All in favor, please say aye. I'm going to ask individually. Aye. Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
Councilmember Morig.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Jamison.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimous. Sudie, all right, our next item is general public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to engage or to share information with the mayor and the city council and to provide input and opinions on any item that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during tonight's meeting. As a reminder, there will be two opportunities for public comment. The first of which is general public comment. If you wish to make a general public comment, then please use the raise hand feature located at the bottom of your screen now. If you're using a telephone, press *9 to raise your hand. As a reminder, when your name is called, please unmute your microphones and state your name and address before your comment, and you will have 5 minutes for remarks. Stacy, is there any general public comment tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Sudi, if you'll please read the consent agenda.
First item is approval of the April 15th, 2020 regular city council meeting minutes, agenda item number 20135. Approval of the April 23rd, 2020 special called city council meeting minutes, agenda item number 20136. Approval of the financial statements and investment report for the period ending March 2020, agenda item number 2137. Approval of change order number 1 to an agreement between the City of Milton and Dynamo Pool Management to change the terms of the swimming pool management agreement at the Milton City Pool, agenda item number 2138. Next, approval of a task order with BM&K PC for design and bid support for Saddle Springs Drive Culvert Repair Project, agenda item number 2139. Approval of a change order to task order to provide construction inspection services for Northeast Crabapple Connector Project between the City of Milton and BM&K PC, agenda item number 2140. Our seventh item is approval of an agreement for outside providers and facility use agreement between the City of Milton and Wellasong LLC to provide adult Tai Chi classes, agenda item number 2141. Approval of the Phase 2 professional services agreement with Taylor English Duma LLP, agenda item number 2142. Our ninth item is approval of plan adoption agreements for health reimbursement account and flexible spending account contract with basic benefits, agenda item number 2143. Our 10th and final consent agenda item is approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Pond and Company to provide architectural design services and construction documents for the development of bathrooms, a boardwalk, and a fishing pier at Providence Park, agenda item number 2044.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read by the city clerk.
Second.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Moore. I'm going to call individually, but those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
Morrig.
Aye.
Jameson.
Aye.
And Moore.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, Sudi. So we'll move on to reports and presentations. Sudi, if you'll please sound the items.
This is a proclamation honoring the class of 2020 high school graduates from Milton. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Okay, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate all the students in our two Milton high schools, Cambridge and Milton. I certainly understand this is different times, and we'll all look back on these with some fond memories and some frustrating memories, and they're definitely different times. So I appreciate all the cooperation, and I totally understand for all the students involved. This is not a normal time, but again, we do want to honor you guys and present this proclamation. So even though unfortunately it's virtual and not in person, but it certainly has the same meaning. So tonight we're also fortunate to have Principal Jones with Brian Jones with Milton High School. So Brian, are you there? I think Principal Jones, if you'll unmute your computer. I think he's still muted, or at least it looks like it from my screen.
Hello.
There you go. Principal Jones,
Hey.
how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for being here with us.
Not a problem. I want to thank you and the whole city council and just everyone that we've been working with to help us get to this finish line strong and make sure students understand they're being honored and thought about, and just understand and that they understand that there's a lot of people behind them, so they get through this with as many pleasant memories as possible. So I'm super appreciative of everyone that's been helpful, and it's just an amazing community that we're in, and I'm so appreciative.
Okay, thank you. And is Principal Promoli from Cambridge online here? I don't. Oh, yep, there. Thank you so much. So, would you like to say a few
Mayor
words?
Lockwood.
Good to see you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to Milton City Council members and Mayor Lockwood for having me this evening. Of course, we all wanted the class of 2020 to have a much different experience. In fact, in normal time, I would have been witnessing my own daughters graduate from high school on this very evening. I want to commend the Cambridge High School class of 2020 for innovating, adapting, and overcoming the disappointments of the last 2 months. These are important coping life skills that will serve them well in the future. Our students worked really hard to create the 20 Days of May and last Saturday's drive-through to celebrate the class of 2020, both of which were very, very big hits. I want to thank the City of Milton, Milton Police Department, and Milton Fire for their support of the drive-through. It was very memorable. Today through Wednesday, our students had the opportunity to take graduation pictures on our graduation set, and we will air a virtual graduation on Saturday, May 23rd at 10:30 a.m. It'll be live streamed. I'm so proud of the Cambridge community and Milton City for coming together to make the very best of a very difficult situation. Congratulations to the Cambridge class of 2020, all of our graduates in Milton and Fulton County schools and everywhere. I'm so proud of all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for both of you for being here with us. And we certainly these are different times. One day, all of our graduates will be telling their kids or their grandkids that back when they graduated, they had to do it virtually. But it's, there's some of the neat things that have come out of this is some of the alternative ways people are celebrating graduation and whatnot. So
Absolutely.
with that, I am honored to be able to present a proclamation honoring the class of 2020 high school graduates from Milton High School and Cambridge High School. Whereas the seniors from Milton High School will graduate virtually on Thursday, May 21st. And whereas seniors from Cambridge High School will graduate virtually on Saturday, May 23rd. And whereas seniors from other Milton area institutions, specifically Kings Ridge Christian School, Mill Springs Academy, and St. Francis High School have graduated or will soon graduate. And whereas the class of 2020 this year will not celebrate with traditional large in-person graduation ceremonies surrounded by classmates and teachers. And whereas these students are nonetheless very worthy of celebration and adulteration. Let me get my lights back on. Excuse me one second. There we go. And whereas seniors have worked diligently and excelled during their academic careers, having met and in many cases exceeded the rigorous requirements to graduate from their respective high schools. And whereas young Milton residents have consistently shown exemplary character and have been credits to our community, including through extensive volunteer service and being good neighbors to many. And whereas the City of Milton, including its elected officials and city staff, it is extremely proud of these graduates for their accomplishments and stellar attitudes. And whereas the city admires those seniors for how well they have handled significant challenges, including those related to COVID-19 pandemic. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the City of Milton, hereby honor class of 2020 high school graduates by recognizing and celebrating their impressive achievements. And this is given under our hand and the seal of City of Milton, Georgia on the 18th day of May 2020. And again, I want to send out a big heartfelt congratulations from myself, our city council, all of our city staff, all of our schools, and mostly all of our citizens to you guys. And we're there to support you and look forward to your promising future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Lockwood. Thank you, City Council.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to both principals for being here. All right. Next, we'll have our first presentation. Sudi, if you'll please sound those items.
Presentation of former Milton Country Club Phase 1A and 1B of the Trail Phasing Project, Mr. Robert Drury.
Okay. Again, let's see. I'm sorry, Sudi.
Mayor, it was actually, it's my fault. I just allowed him to talk, so he should be able to talk now.
Okay. All right. I believe we were at first presentation. So, Sudi. Or no, I'm sorry. You're right. We're at Milton Country Club with Robert. Go ahead.
Mr. Robert Drury.
Give me just a minute, Mayor. Let me go check and see what's
Okay.
going on.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. I've got it now.
There we go. All right.
All right. My apologies. I have to unmute it. Didn't realize I had to do that. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I appreciate the time to sit down and present to you the former Milton Country Club Trail Plan. If you recall, the City Council adopted the master plan in August of 2019. And tonight we're just going to discuss the trail system for the North Woods. Just to kind of orient you a little bit, there's three separate components to the former Milton Country Club. We've got the active area where the country club, the pool, tennis courts sit, North Woods and South Woods. And we're going to specifically be referring to the North Woods. In the master plan, it identified some existing conditions and some existing challenges. First and foremost is the golf cart easements. If you recall, the concrete cart path is meandering throughout the golf course and on private property. Last year, the City Council did adopt a resolution to relinquish those easements. This project that we're going to be putting forward very soon will remove the concrete from within those easements on private property. I will be sending a letter to the residents here in the next few days, just outlining our plan. The plan does include removing the concrete within those easements, replacing it, grading it to the existing grade, and replacing any material, like material that was out there prior to the work. For example, if they had an established grass, we will be resodding. If it's under pine trees and it's full of pine straw, we'll just put pine straw back down. So that's the work within the golf cart easements. Once we complete our work, then we will, through our legal department, quit claim our rights to those easements. We also have identified some bridge failures. You see the picture on the right where that pier basically is floating. That particular bridge has been removed and obviously has to be replaced. And throughout the fairways and the property, there are some storm system failures that we have to address as well. So those are some of the existing conditions and challenges that were presented to us in the master plan. And this is a snapshot of the master plan recommendations for the trail. It's the trail loop on the North Woods is shown in orange and along Dinsmore Road. So that's the project we're going to identify and start working on. So I'll give you a few more specifics. The master plan had two phases, phase 1A and phase 1B. Phase 1A, we're going to reuse the existing cart path where it's in good condition. And as I just said, remove the cart paths in the easements. remove and repair the site challenges like the bridge and the storm drain failures, and fill in the trail gaps with new natural surface granite. I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. That's phase 1A. Phase 1B creates the Northwoods Loop by putting in a 8-foot concrete side path along Dinsmore Road. And this is the overall picture of the plan that we're working on it now. And I got to give all credit to Transportation Engineer Sarah Leaders. She's actually designing this in-house on AutoCAD. And she's done a tremendous job. And I'll try to walk you through this if you can follow my cursor. This is Dinsmore Road, where we're putting the 8-foot concrete side path. The items that you see in red are cart paths that are going to have to be removed. The items in gray is the existing cart path. And where we remove the cart path, we'll create a new loop, and that's shown in black. So here you see the cart path going up on private property, tying back in, so we're going to create a new loop just south of it. And then the trail meanders through the fairways, a new bridge here, where my cursor is showing under the creek. That's where the bridge has actually failed. And there's a long existing cart path that we're going to be removing and replacing with the new granite trail. You see this throughout the project where we're pulling old concrete, putting in new trail. Sarah's done a really good job of putting that together. And as you approach, coming back toward the active areas, the trail will go behind the country club and tie back into Dinsmore. So you've got a full, complete loop. This project is near complete design. Oh, and here's a picture from the master plan of the decomposed granite crushed stone. That's what the new trail and the loop will look like where we pull out the old concrete. And that'll be throughout the fairways. So the new plan, we should have out on the street to bid probably in the next 15 to 20 days. Construction should start this summer. Basically, that plan will have 1,170 feet of new concrete side path on Dinsmore, 4,444 feet of new gravel path, and we are removing 5,900 feet of concrete cart path, installing 2 wood bridges, and the storm drain repair work throughout the fairways where it's immediately adjacent to the trail itself. That's all included in the project, and as I said, we'll probably have this out to bid in the next 15 to 20 days. Thank you for your time. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Yeah, we'll open up for questions. Carol?
Hi, Robert. Thank you. Is any part of Milton Country Club available now for walkers? I'm a little confused. I've heard different things. Do you have any loops that are open or walkable?
There's nothing on the trail that's open and available to the public. We just got too many site problems out there, bridges out, storm drain failures. It's not open to the public.
And my second question is, wonderful that in-house we've been able to create this design and map it out, and I certainly trust your opinion and know that Sarah did a great job. What happened to our consultants? Were they not charged with doing that part of this project?
I'm going to assume you're referring to the master plan consultants. To my knowledge, they were not contracted to do any design work or construction design.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see, Councilmember Bentley, I think.
Yes, thank you. Robert, how many miles is the loop that we're speaking of bidding out?
I don't know if I've got an exact measurement. I hate to throw a number out there and be held to it, but
Okay.
I don't know the exact footage. I'll have to find out and verify it.
But I think Councilmember Bentley, in general, it's probably somewhere about a mile. Looks like possibly about a mile of between the gravel path and new concrete work. Somewhere about a mile, looks like. Ballpark.
So that's where I'm confused, because I was looking back at a presentation by someone on our green space committee, and along the creek it was said to be 1.6 miles, and so my point is this, is as we put this out to bid, which I'm all for getting this park or even a portion of it open, if we must phase in our phasing for the trails, I would like to zero in on that area along Chicken Creek, because I do think that the presenter, who was Colt Whittle, had a great point about Chicken Creek providing shade and a nice hike that is along a water feature, and is also, if you look at the other side of Chicken Creek where North Valley is, it's very well used. And my only hesitation is, this plan and this phasing, we're taking a lot, and we're, I guess I'm hoping people stay on these paths that we are building and reconstructing. I guess I'd like to see how people, it's always good to see maybe with a portion, how it's used, how people behave, and what their input is. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Thanks, Joe. Robert, I've got a couple questions. First, I appreciate the time that you took with me about a week and a half ago to walk a majority of the park. It was very enlightening. Robert did show me the areas of concern where I went in pretty naive, thinking that this might be a simple fix. There might be some ways to get some parts open before others. What he demonstrated to me was there are some significant areas of concern where we have to be careful as a city as to how much we open and when. But my questions, Robert, are when this goes to bid and you're anticipating the beginning of the construction to be, was it late June or early July?
We'll probably have it in contract in July, early July, by the time we bid it out. So we should see construction before the end of July.
And then when the construction begins, I know it will be up to the construction company, but do you anticipate that they will undertake all of the areas of construction at the same time? Or is there a way to potentially choreograph some of if they were to start at the furthest end of the park, for example, that would be the furthest away from where a member of the community might enter the park? Is there a way to contemplate choreographing that where we could control certain parts of the park theoretically being open and other parts being closed due to the construction? Or is it going to be an entire park construction site?
Well, my experience is the contractor is going to start one phase of the project, for example, removing all the concrete paths. He'll probably do that first, and then start constructing maybe the bridges. So it'll be phased in that makes sense to the contractor, might not make sense to us. So it's kind of difficult to say how the contractor is going to approach this project. But I venture to say the contractor is not going to do portion of it and have it open to the public. He won't do phases all at one time and then do other phases. He'll do the trail, granite, all at one time. He'll do the concrete work at one time. He doesn't want to remobilize for those. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'll tell you the reason I'm asking that question is, I had a chance to absorb from the walk, what the experience might be as somebody wanting to walk the park as a just a member of the community. And there were times that we were both on and off of the finished concrete area, and we were walking in what were some areas that were just cut meadow, almost like a couple of lawnmower widths of cut grass. So the realization or the idea that I've had since you and I walked that I would love maybe some consideration of is if there's a way to capitalize on a part that could be furthest away from where the primary construction is going on, or we could have an outbound on the golf cart paths and maybe a return as just a cut meadow area, like we had done with somebody had done out there on our behalf, and creates a smaller loop so we can get some part of it usable and not lose the entire summer, especially in the environment we're in, where people are looking for alternative ways to get out and about and enjoy the community. I think that people would appreciate even if it's a small portion of the park, being open sooner rather than later. I'd love to see if we can still find a way, as we're contemplating the construction phases, to get some parts open, even if it's in a rough stage, where it's just some rough cart path and some cut meadow as a pathway. I just would appreciate your consideration of that.
And we'll take a look at that.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just echo, Robert, what the other council members have said so far. If there's a way we can actually get part of this open sooner rather than later, it'd be great if we could actually get some use out of it during the summer. And as Paul had mentioned, this is a time where people really have had limited places to go. And it would be great if, in fact, we could safely get them out on a portion of this trail while we're finishing off some of the others.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Councilmember Bentley?
Yep. Robert, can you, I'm trying to look at where the red is on properties. Do you have an estimate of how many easements are on golf cart paths are on private property?
I believe the attorney said there were 20, maybe 22 residents to deal with. I haven't counted them myself, but I believe that's what they told me.
Okay, 22. And so when the bid is returned, the estimate for the cost of that will be contained in the bid, correct?
To remove the concrete? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll just add, like all the council members' comments, and agree with their points. But also will add that I'm sure from a staff perspective and liability, respect our staff's decisions based on what we can open and what we can't if there is active construction going on there. So appreciate all the input on, or the thought that staff can put into doing that, but also understand that we'll certainly would have to be isolated for the public for ongoing construction out there. So. All right, if anybody, Paul, and then Carol.
Yeah, Joe, I want to make sure I'm clear on my comments too. I completely support staff's expertise on this. What I want to make sure I'm loud and clear about what I witnessed out there. There are some very real concerns that staff has brought to the forefront that are safety concerns. I don't for a minute want to push a park opening and compromise staff's recommendations on safety and making sure it's the right time and right place to open.
Absolutely, and I certainly didn't take that way. I'm just saying, just make sure everything's isolated so that no one's able to get into an active construction site and get hurt. Carol?
So other alternatives, because of the liability and the fact that Robert and team are not magicians and Milton Country Club is certainly not ready. Birmingham Park, the existing trails are wider. There's been some cleanup. There's a lot of walkers there right now, more walkers than riders. So we can encourage people to go there as an alternative to Wood and our other gravel roads, as well as Providence Park. And I think maybe we could huddle and come up with some other creative places to walk that would be safe, rather than try to put people in a situation that just ain't gonna happen. So we can talk among ourselves about that.
That's a good point. I was just thinking, because we do, some of our areas, Wood Road and some of our other parks do get a lot of people and maybe, concentrated use. Maybe we could think about staff and discuss this at another time, but having some communication, but also maybe some signage at the parking areas on each park, where it also lists other options in other areas, because some people may go, let's just say, to Wood Road to walk and don't know about Birmingham Park. But if there was a sign there, they may say, hey, I'm going to try this next time, or vice versa, and whatnot. So that may be something we think about in the future. Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move on to our first presentation. Sudi, if you'll please sound the first presentation items.
First item is consideration of amendments to Chapter 32 of the Milton City Code to prohibit the use of vaping products on city-owned property, agenda item number 20145. Next is consideration of amendments to Chapter 34 of the Milton City Code to prohibit the use of vaping products in city parks and to eliminate Article 3, special events, agenda item number 20146. And finally, consideration of an ordinance authorizing the conditional operation of personal transportation vehicles on designated city streets, agenda item number 20147.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval on the first presentation items?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the first presentation items as read by the city clerk.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Jameson for approval. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Councilmember Cookerly?
Aye.
Bentley?
Aye.
Morig?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
All right, thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, we don't have anything under a public hearing or a zoning agenda tonight, so I'm going to move on to unfinished business. Sudi, if you'd please sound the unfinished business item.
Consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Section 24 of the Milton City Code, creating park and recreation fees and other charges, agenda item number 2130. First presentation was at the May 4th City Council meeting. Mr. Jim Craig.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Tom McElveen. Up to this point, our program providers have used their own registration systems to collect registrations. And we now have some programs that are utilizing the city's registration system that we have. And this language change will allow us to collect that full fee and then give that percentage of the collections back to the provider. The way it has historically been is we would invoice our program providers. They would, give us the 15% commission off that invoice. And we're essentially looking at a way to just flip that structure around so that we can collect the fees and then give them their 85%.
Are there any questions from council to Tom on that item? Okay. Any Steve? Anybody? Anything else on that?
No, I think Tom did a good job.
Okay. All right. I'll open up for a motion then.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 20-130.
Second.
Okay. I've got a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Morig. I'm going to call individually for your vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Bentley.
Aye.
Morig.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
And Jameson.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. This is the second opportunity for public comment. If you wish to comment on a new business item, please note there are two. Then please use the raise hand feature before the item is read. And Sudi, if you will please sound the item, then I'll open up for any public comment.
Consideration of a grant application to the U.S. Fire Administration's Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program for the purchase of personal protective equipment for the pandemic response. Agenda item number 2148. Chief Robert Edgar or Matt Marietta?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The fire department is seeking approval for a grant application with the U.S. Fire Administrators Assistance to the Firefighters Grant Program. What this grant does is a reimbursement program through AFG for departments to recoup some of the funds that they have spent in regards to this pandemic regarding PPE, such as the gloves, the N95 masks, the surgical masks, the Tyvek suits, and goggles and face shields. So far, we have spent nearly $14,000 on this equipment as an emergency purchases since the beginning of this pandemic. And this grant program offers an opportunity for a 10% match. So the city would then recoup 90% of the funds that we've already spent. There is opportunity through the Stanford Act later on to ask FEMA for reimbursement, but that's a 15% match. So we wanted to take the opportunity to actually seek this 10% match and recoup as much of the money as we can that we've already spent as a department to outfit our first responders with PPE equipment to protect them against this COVID-19 pandemic. I have Matt's available. He's the author of this grant and he submitted this grant. So if you have any really tough questions, he's the guy you want to shoot them to. I'll handle the easy ones, but if you have any questions, we certainly be able to answer those for you.
Let me ask Stacy, do we have any public comment on that?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing on this item and then open up to council for questions. Councilmember Bentley?
I have a really hard question. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's go to Matt.
Matt, no, I'm always very appreciative of this department and our police department, you know, looking for these grants, especially given the current situation that we're under. So fully support this and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I agree. Is anybody else have a question? Okay, I'll open this up for motion. Thank you, Chief and Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make motion that we approve agenda item number 20-148, consideration of a grant application to the U.S. Fire Administrators Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program for the purchase of personal protective equipment for the pandemic response.
I'll second that.
Okay, I believe I had obviously had the motion from Councilmember Morgan, and I believe it was Councilmember Cookley I had a second from. So Councilmember Moore, I'll give you a third. How about that? So all in favor, I'll ask individually, but aye. Councilmember Cookley?
Aye.
Bentley?
Aye.
Morrig?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
And Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So, okay, Sudi, if you would please read the last new business item.
Consideration of an amendment, emergency ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Milton, Georgia, under section 3.18 of the charter of the city of Milton, to provide for the operation of the city of Milton, Georgia during the public emergency known as the novel coronavirus disease 2019 global pandemic, to become effective upon adoption by council, to supersede the existing emergency ordinance, to adopt the city's reopening plan, and for other purposes. Agenda item number 2149. I do have a public comment that came via email to me, and can I read that at this time?
That's fine with me. I've seen the email too, so please feel free to
Okay.
go ahead and read the public comment.
This is from Gary Jablonski at 2680 Grassview Drive, Milton, Georgia. Mayor and distinguished council members, as I read the packet for agenda item 2149, it looks like the city emergency ordinance is extended to June 12, 2020. I would like assurance from the city legal counsel that the extended ordinance is in compliance with all Georgia state emergency ordinances and those of Fulton County. In particular, I want to be assured that any Milton city restrictions are not more restrictive than Georgia restrictions, where Georgia law prohibit individual municipalities from setting regulations that are in conflict with Georgia law. And
Okay.
Mr. Ken Gerard.
Thank you. And then just to confirm, Cindy, is that all the public comment we have, or Stacy?
That's all I have via email.
Stacy, do we have any public comment?
No public comments, sir.
Okay, I'll close the hearing part, but then go ahead, Ken.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. And so, yes, we are going to discuss today a further extension of the emergency ordinance that the council has had in effect, and some variation or iteration of it since literally March 16th. Does everybody remember March 16th when this began to occur? We adopted a declaration of local emergency on March 16th. We then beefed it up on March 20th and have had various versions of it that we have had to approve and reapprove as your local code anticipates that you will revisit this every 30 days. And so we've been attempting to do that and make sure that everything we do is in fact compliant. As to the citizen, yes, of course, the governor's various orders have been very clear, at least since about April 2nd, that they want any local enactments to be no more strict or no more lenient than what the governor has put in place. And having put this emergency ordinance together, I am comfortable that we are completely compliant with the governor's instructions with respect to that. So let me say this, I want to go over what this version of the ordinance, the current version of the ordinance, the emergency ordinance, expires on May 19th. The one in front of you this evening will pick up on May 20th, and it runs to June 12th, which is right now the extension by which the governor has extended the state of Georgia emergency. And candidly, the governor's latest orders does a lot of things, but one of the things that he has done is extended the statewide emergency until June 12th. And so this ordinance will in fact run coterminous with that and will end on June 12th. We have sort of used our March 20th emergency ordinance as sort of the template for all the various versions thereafter, and have sort of worked off of that. And you may recall that back in March 20th, we were really focused on the operations of the city, how our local committees and boards functions, compliance to the Open Meetings Act, things of that nature. So think of that. There is also, of course, various emergency powers that the Milton Code gives to the mayor. Those have been sort of blended in to our emergency ordinance. And so, and you may remember we had some meetings with respect to those emergency powers. And of course, the mayor has used those and then had those sanctioned or ratified by the council. And they have not really had a prohibitive effect. What they have traditionally had during this emergency has been an allowance effect, basically providing relief to businesses in the community that may be impacted by the various shelter-in-place ordinances or rules, and also, of course, just the pandemic generally. So we have attempted, the mayor and I know the council have attempted to use these powers basically to permit sort of an unusual operation to get folks through this time. So now fast forward to now, what does the current ordinance you have in front of you do? First of all, it reconfirms those powers granted to the mayor that are already in existence under your various codes. That is in fact the case. Those would continue forth again until June 12th. With respect to the operations of the city, now this is important. Section 6 of your various emergency ordinances have basically provided that, you know, public hearings are shut down. Milton zoning and regulatory agencies are shut down. The public policy and visioning functions of the council shut down. All right, that's where I want you to focus, because this ordinance that will, assuming that you approve it, that comes into effect on May 20th, it takes that out. So we will, in effect, be attempting to sort of rev back up the engine of government in Milton. I'm not going to say to normalcy. I'm not suggesting that, because you're going to hear from Matt Marietta in a little bit with respect to the phased reopening plan. But we are attempting to go ahead and try to resume sort of some effort at normalcy with respect to how we begin to legislate, how we begin to take administrative and regulatory action, all of the, and when I say inferior, I don't mean lesser, but I just mean not the council, how some of your other entities function, your ZBA, your DRB, your planning commission, et cetera. We're attempting to get those going again. You know, business is backlogged. People still need to engage their government, and we're attempting to get that going again. So that big, robust Section 6 that has sort of stopped all of that activity, we're lifting that out. And in replace of it, and Matt's going to talk to you about this, we're going to have this phased reopening plan, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt in just a moment. But that's one of the big things that this ordinance, if you, assuming you adopt it, strips away. This ordinance also further confirms 5 of the mayoral declarations that were what I call pro-business, pro-functioning declarations. For instance, the March 20th allowing to-go malt beverage and wine and alcohol sales, this ordinance reaffirms that and extends it consistent with the term of the ordinance. The declaration allowing restaurants and retail to place additional signage, once again, a very, sort of a pro-retail, pro-business declaration, it too will be extended until June 12th. That declaration deferring payment of alcohol excise taxes, that too would be furthered until June 12th. Excuse me, I got that wrong, deferred to April 30th. No, that's not right. It would be, excuse me, so the deferred payment of alcohol excise taxes would in fact run contemporaneous to June 12th with this ordinance. April 24th declaration allowing occupational tax certificate renewals to be extended, that too would go for a run coterminous with the ordinance. And then finally, allowing event facilities and caterers to host private catered events, that too would again run contemporaneous with the ordinance. So again, we're attempting just to sort of build those into the ordinance and allow them to move forward. As I mentioned, this ordinance would also adopt the reopening plan that Mr. Marietta is about to walk through with you. And then Section 7, which is the last sort of new language, does something unique. And that is this, it says this, that during the term of this emergency ordinance, city staff are empowered to unilaterally modify internal city-county rules with respect to how the public may interact with the council to ensure that during the term of this ordinance, citizens are provided enhanced flexibility on engaging the council. What we're getting to on that is this. If the council signs off on this, and if we begin to sort of reopen the government, particularly with respect to in-person live meetings, there may be situations where the individual members of the public, irrespective of the fact that we're holding live meetings, just aren't comfortable showing up. And so what we're going to attempt to do, working with city staff, is open up alternative arrangements where they may be able to interact with you. Typically, as you know, back in the old days, back in February, right, a long time ago, if individuals wanted to engage a city council, they needed to be at the meeting. Okay, that was the deal. Even if they wanted to submit a written statement, we typically wanted them to be in the meeting hall, and then we would read the statement into the record. That may not work for a while. We may need to give individuals that want to engage us remotely or via email or other sorts of alternative options the ability and flexibility to do that. So this ordinance would allow for staff to sort of dig deep and think, how can folks engage us that just may not be comfortable coming to an in-person venue? So, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, that is my overview of this ordinance. And again, it would run until June 12th. And then I want to turn it over to Mr. Marietta so he can go over with you the phased opening protocol that he's put together. Mr. Marietta?
Ken, can I break in before we go to Matt?
Yeah.
On your part of the presentation, is there any council, does anybody have any questions from Ken?
Oh,
Let's refresh this discussion. Okay, we'll turn it over to Matt.
Good evening. Over the last week or so, I've worked with staff, senior staff in the city to try to develop a reopening plan for Milton, as we've, during the response to this pandemic, closed down some facilities and changed the way we operate. This plan is based on the federal reopening phases. If you'll recall, the White House task force came up with a Reopening America plan. So this is, for lack of a better term, the Reopening Milton plan. And we're focusing primarily on city facilities and services that we provide. It's also based on current CDC guidelines, which are changing regularly as new data is developed. It's based on Georgia Department of Public Health requirements, and it's most definitely based on Governor Kemp's executive orders. These last two items can be mandates, and we took pains to make sure that this plan reflected the governor's orders. There's some general overall guidelines. We're continuing our deep cleaning of facilities and equipment based on their use. We started that before we actually went into the shelter-in-place period of this pandemic response, and we're going to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. We're also going to continue to encourage social distancing, hand washing, and other hygienic behaviors in accordance with the CDC recommendations. We're trying to develop a work environment as conducive as possible to social distancing to keep staff as safe as possible and also our visitors as safe as possible when we start to open the buildings back up. And we're going to continue workforce monitoring in accordance with the governor's recommendations, temperature checks, and requiring people who are sick to not come to work and so on. Continue supporting our at-risk population in the city and among our city staff, and also try to continue our public communication throughout this process. The highlights of phase one, if you can advance the slide. One more. The highlights of phase one, we will be formally in phase one upon your adoption, if you choose to adopt this item tonight. But also some of these items we've been doing all along, for example, teleworking. But phase one revolves around continued use of web-based and remote city services, continued teleworking wherever practical, staggering staffing at City Hall to try to increase our presence in City Hall, but trying to prevent everybody from being there all at once. Very limited gatherings of employees. A highlight of this phase would be resuming council, board, and committee meetings in accordance with CDC recommendations and any state requirements. We are also beginning to reopen parks activities within the CDC guidelines. For example, our more active elements have opened recently. Also in this phase, the back office areas of city facilities like the fire stations and the staff part of City Hall will remain closed to the public. Next slide, please. In phase two, which the general gating criteria for that, according to the federal plan, is no evidence of a rebound because of phase one, and a downward trajectory of documented cases of COVID-19 and influenza-like illness. That's something that we're going to look at more on the state level. That's the state gating criteria, but we're also using that to guide our plan as well. I have in my plan that was in the packet tonight a tentative start date of June 12th, but we'll make that decision on whether we move into phase two based on current recommendations, current state guidelines, as they are changing quickly. Phase two will include increased in-person activity at City Hall. We'll try to keep that as safe as possible through social distancing, use of masks, and facility and space modification as needed. We will continue to encourage use of web-based services and remote services by the public. Have meetings among staff, but they're small and kept socially distanced. And sometimes they may have to use masks when they do that if we've got a larger group of people in the same room. And then we want to continue to increase our parks and recreations offerings at city facilities. There's been a lot of discussions with Parks and Recs on how we can increase our offerings to the community in a safe manner and in line with the governor's orders. But during this phase, the core facilities will remain closed to the public. And then in phase three, city events can resume. And again, for as far as how we get to phase three, that's going to be based on evidence of no rebound. Basically, we'll implement phase two, and if no evidence of a rebound of COVID-19 and meeting the gating criteria put forward by the federal task force. During phase 3, city events can resume with enhanced cleaning, public signage encouraging hygiene and limited social distancing measures. Enhanced cleaning of health precautions at city facilities will continue. Accommodation of at-risk employees should continue as appropriate. City Hall can resume normal operations. Enhanced hygiene and cleaning again will remain in place. All city meetings and staff citizen meetings can be routinely conducted with enhanced cleaning, and core facilities can open back up to the public with controlled access. Then phase 4 is basically when things go back to normal. The federal plan actually doesn't anticipate a phase 4. We've got one in ours to basically when we are eliminating social distancing and all the other measures that we have in place. And that will basically occur when the COVID-19 situation has resolved, or we've come to a working arrangement with it as a society. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
All right, does council have any questions for Matt on that? Okay, well, thank you for the presentation on that, Matt and Ken, and obviously it's important stuff, and appreciate you keeping on top of it and keeping us posted, you know, as we move forward and on this this ordinance. So I'll open this up. We don't have any more public comment, correct? I think I've already asked that, so I think I closed the public hearing on that. So I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 20-149. Second that.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jameson for approval and a second from Councilmember Moore. I'm voting in favor of that. Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrig.
Aye.
Councilmember Jameson.
Aye.
And Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous, Sudi. So thank you. So next we'll move on to reports. I just want to say thank you to everybody from our public and our staff and council for working together in these unprecedented times, working remotely. As most of you know me very well. I'm really good with technology and computers. Kind of look forward to getting back to some semblance of normalcy. But I'm going to open up to council. Does council have any thing they want to report on, or questions or comments? Councilmember Moore.
Thanks, Joe. In keeping with the presentation just given by Matt and Ken on the attention to detail, trying to get back to some sense of normalcy, I think several of us have been contacted by another small business in the community. I've got a passion for ensuring that we get our small businesses up and running as best we can, and I think Milton's doing a great job of that. But in particular, I think one that kind of gets overlooked in the mix is Matilda's. And the fact that they are a bit of an anomaly once again, and the fact that they are a special use permit. I think right now, Governor Kemp's order does not allow for concert venues to be open at this point. And of course, we look forward to his efforts to lift that and get that sense of normalcy back as well. But I'm just wondering if there's a way for us, in the fact that if we look at our restaurants and some of our other small businesses that are finding ways to socially distance their patrons, have some semblance of being open, in the fact that Matilda's is 100% open air event. They've got the space to socially distance the tables at the event. I'm just wondering if there's a way, if they came forward with a social distancing plan for the city of Milton, if there were a way for us to contemplate exception to the governor's review of the large concert venues for the consideration of our small business venue that Matilda's presents to us. I'm wondering if staff and/or legal can give an interpretation of that.
Again, I think, Ken, I think you and Steve have looked into that somewhat. Obviously, the governor's orders supersede, but, Councilmember Moore brings up a good point. There may be some, obviously things they can do. So I'm not sure what we can do legally as a city, but certainly would be interested in exploring that, Ken. And I think Councilmember Cook.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Absolutely, Steve.
So the situation as it pertains to the governor's order, which expires on May 31st, has been resolved. They have no intentions of opening up before the 31st. So that becomes a moot point. The only issue would be is if the governor does renew that piece of his emergency ordinance going forward from June 1st, which I'm not a soothsayer, but based on the current trajectory, I'm thinking come January 1st, that may no longer be an issue.
June 1st?
June 1st.
June 1st. Yeah, council members, I agree with what Steve said, and we have talked about it. Just a couple of thoughts. It's very, and it can be confusing, but the governor's latest order, the one that he has recently kicked out a week or so ago, does run till the end of May. That's got the limited shelter in place. That's got the very specific rules about live entertainment venues, et cetera. I will tell you, these are challenging because every 2 weeks one comes out, and of course, particularly the last two versions have had some very nuanced, just very modest changes in the language, but some of that change can have big impacts on the ability of businesses to function. So we have to read them with a very discerning eye, and we're trying to do that. Then, so you have the governor's order with the limited shelter in place. The limited shelter in place, however, actually runs until June 12th. But the other components of the order, as Steve mentioned, only run to the end of May. And then, of course, you have the overarching just state of emergency, which too runs until June 12th. So what I can tell you is we're going to know a lot more about what June looks like, I would wager probably on May 28th, because I suspect that is when we will get the next version of the governor's order that will tell us what June looks like. But right now, yeah, live event venues are in fact shut down until the end of May. And as even the citizen that wrote in indicated, it is the case that local governments are not able to impose regulations that are more lenient or more strict if it is something that the governor has specifically spoken on, and he has specifically spoken on that issue. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ken. I know, Carol, you wanted to make a comment.
Ken, is there any mechanism within the state government where any of the legal team or any of the staff is fielding questions about things that may not be covered? Because Matilda's is obviously not a Phillips Arena type concert. So the question I have is, do you know of any mechanism where people can petition for exception?
Councilman quickly, if was that to me, forgive me, was that to legal?
Yes, Ken, because I think you know everything.
I just couldn't, it broke up just for a moment. So I will tell you this, we represent a number of governments and have had a lot of very positive interaction with the governor's office, and they have been very forthcoming and willing to tell us what the underlying rationale was and what their intent behind the various regulations were. So the answer is yes. They would, I think, be very willing to field a question on this. I would say this, though. I think the better approach, I think the way the order is drafted right now is there's just not a whole lot of wiggle room right there. I think it's very clear, and it really doesn't even get into size right now. It's just any sort of an event facility. But it might be something where if we wanted to speak, because what I'm seeing practically is the governor is attempting to address issues in each different version of the order that make sense that are, rationally related to protection of the public health, but also attempts to get the state of Georgia moving and open for business in a safe, productive way. So that may be something that if we can have some engagement with the governor's office and say, look, we have this unique, wonderful event center here that perhaps doesn't fit into a large event venue, but something that you might be able to allow to open back up again with some more exacting protocols. That might be something we could look at. But right now, I think we're going to have to wait until the end of May to get any relief on that.
Okay. All right. Is there anything council wants to report on? Okay. We'll move on to our staff reports. Start with community outreach.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Greg Vitello from the communications director and also head of the communications engagement team. Thank you and council for letting me speak to you tonight. And thanks to Courtney Spriggs, who's our community outreach manager, who you'll hear more from in a minute, for graciously sharing her spot with me. Courtney works with me as part of my team. In these past few months, the idea of communications, engagement, and outreach are more entwined than ever. So it makes sense for all of us to talk together. I've been with the city for just over 4 months, though it's in so many ways it feels closer to 4 years. I've been scheduled to make my first presentation at the first council meeting after the emergency ordinance took effect. That didn't happen, but needless to say, a lot has happened since. Before this pandemic, we'd started amplifying our communications efforts, and with more social media posts, more website updates, more coordination with people across city government. Then once the pandemic began, we, to borrow a phrase from Spinal Tap, wanted to turn it up to 11. Never in the city's history has it been more critical to inform and engage our citizens, as well as city staff and council members. And never has it been more challenging. I'm pleased to report that we've turned it up to something closer to 19 or 20. The volume of information we're sharing nowadays has grown leaps and bounds. That includes elements directly related to council matters, from detailed explainers on every agenda item to recaps of meetings within hours of when they occur. I've worked with Mayor Lockwood, our city manager, emergency manager, and others on official statements, explainers, and answers about topics that we'd never fathomed in 2019. I've done my best to gather, process, and make sense of the extensive stream of COVID-19 related info and get it out to the public. I partnered with every department to articulate its existing and change processes, policies, and the like, especially useful after we closed City Hall to the public. The results of these collaborations landed on social media or website and the answers to residents' specific questions sent by email, Facebook, and more. Other bits and pieces were for an internal communication, help get everyone on the same page in an easily confusing time, and all are important. On top of all that, our website traffic has increased by an estimated 500% or more, thanks to our coronavirus update web page created by Jen Hartwig, and many more news and other posts. Our more frequently sent emails are being read more thoroughly than ever. And our social media footprint has expanded significantly, not only with more posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but also more engaging ones. I've worked hand in hand too with our police and fire departments to get their messages out on their own social media. Our goal is to balance being informative, celebratory, cautionary, and if we're lucky, maybe humorous. Our citizens have responded with groundbreaking online engagement. People communicate more with one another on the city's social media, as seen in recent conversations about Birmingham Park and the city pool. This weekend, we posted about Cambridge High's graduation drive-by parade. Within 1 hour, we had well over 100 positive reactions, including people posting their own graduates' photos. This weaves into our greater goal of fostering community in Milton, the sense that we are Milton, and especially now, we are all in this together. We want our citizens to know what is happening, and know that they can come to us with compliments, criticism, suggestions, and hopefully fun, proud moments. We also want them to know that city staffers are doing our very best to work with and for them. Having community is so important, but especially when times are tough. And Milton has an amazing community. To help connect us, I made it a priority to help city staff better understand what's happening in Milton, send them approximately weekly roundups of information. These are similar to the updates I've sent to council. This is important because every one of the dozens of city's employees, from firefighters to permit technicians to parks and rec staffers, are vital ambassadors for Milton who can help inform and engage our citizens. And not only should they know about key developments in Milton, they deserve to know. Plus, the only way our communication strategy can work and has worked is because city staff and elected officials have worked extremely well as a team. Every department head, every city employee I've reached out to, everyone has stepped up big time. while working hard for Milton residents, they've worked with me to ensure that residents know what they are doing and why they're doing it. Know that know that we're listening to the public. Know that we care. From the renovations of the pool at the Milton Country Club, to road work, to sharing ideas to support Milton businesses, and much more, I've been blown away by our city staff members. The ultimate goal is that Milton citizens feel vested in part of our team too, that we can all work together to make Milton an even better place. There's a lot more I could say about the city's outreach and engagement efforts. We've tried to be creative and think outside the box because there's no playbook for this. While I could talk forever about it, I'd rather let my colleague Courtney talk to you. She will touch on some of the ways we've rewritten job descriptions, reinvented city events, and engaged our citizens. So Courtney, if you could take it from here.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I echo what Greg has shared. Our work is both supportive of and dependent on everyone in Milton, as you know. I have a few examples to share, but first I want to recap some highlights, starting with the end of last year. I think I last spoke to you all after Crabapple Fest last year, which feels like about 20 years ago now. But looking back to December, we added Trisha Wolf to our team. She is one of our part-time special events coordinators. She works along with Anita Jupin. Her knowledge in event planning is a welcome addition to our team. We're so happy to have her. Her family just moved back to Milton I guess just over a year ago, but she's jumped in and made a ton of connections. And I want to congratulate her daughter, Grace, who you may have seen on Facebook as she celebrated last Saturday with the drive-by for Cambridge High. Also in December, we had our Christmas events, Christmas and Crabapple and Pancake Breakfast. We have big numbers at both of those events and continue to explore ideas for making them more fun. Thank you to Mayor Lockwood, Santa Claus, Crabapple Community Association, and the Milton Fire Department for your help making those events fantastic. In January, we started our 4th class of Citizens Government Academy with 20 citizens. These incredibly involved participants were both longtime residents and brand new members of Milton's community. They graduated virtually in March and joined a great group of alumni who devoted their time to learning about their local government. Thank you to them for taking the class and for the staff who taught the classes and shared their knowledge. Then in February, we had our Mayor's Run with 173 participants. We raised $4,500 for the Kira Grace Foundation and the Colton Norell Fund. Thank you to everyone who participated in that, especially runners and North Point Pediatric, Dr. Greg Cabrera, Ginger McGee, all North Point staff, as well as the race coordinator, Gary Jenkins, and Milton's Public Works and Public Safety, who make the race as safe as it can be. And then March. In March, COVID-19 numbers and reports began increasing. As the news started changing and people were encouraged to stay home and not connect in person, the importance of engagement and community became very, very clear. Our jobs were going to change and our efforts were more important than ever. I want to highlight how connected our community remains. With extra effort from Anita, Trisha, and Jen, and Greg, we've sought out connection with citizens, business owners, other departments, nonprofits, and other community partners. We've had phone calls, emails, social media, and other connection platforms our staff has worked on. We've worked on items like the Milton Restaurant List, a resource list for COVID resources for Milton residents, and what we dubbed Lemonade Post, which features all the different ways families have made good things or lemonade out of the lemons handed to them via this pandemic. While we worked on creating this content, which was challenging, we found that what people missed was human connection. And so a phone call to request opening hours or photos might turn into a 45-minute or an hour conversation as people were connected with by our staff. It was challenging. Another challenging part of what we have was making sure that we have continued engagement connection with our most vulnerable populations in Milton. Senior living facilities such as Brickmont and Phoenix have rules in place where some residents aren't allowed to leave their rooms. So we've made phone calls to those facilities, worked with their activities coordinators and other staff. And we encourage the community to send cards and letters to both staff and residents. And feedback from Brickmont and Phoenix are incredibly positive. They say that their residents look forward to that as much as anything. We also had businesses one business sent
a tour of her farm. Love Goga, the goat yoga facility, and Kathy Huff sent a tour of her farm, an introduction to animals that they can show on their closed circuit TV channel. And so we've encouraged other businesses to do that as well. We're currently working on a senior to senior project where seniors in those facilities can share advice to our seniors of 2020, our high school seniors. I'm excited to see what advice they can provide them. To keep in touch with our village volunteers, which is our special needs young adult community, Diane Stewart has weekly Zoom calls with them. And I have to say, though it's pretty chaotic, the different cognitive levels, different verbal skills, different physical abilities, there is no muting in those calls. But I have to say, it is one of the highlights of my week to watch them all get together. The first thing they express is how much they miss each other and can't wait to see each other again. So I hope we can do that pretty soon. We've also kept in touch with Santino Monroe. He is our part-time person that works with Sudi. He was hired through Briggs & Associates, who helps hire people with certain disabilities and other cognitive disabilities. And he is part of our vulnerable population and can't go out very much, but we meet with him weekly to make sure he's kept up to date on what's going on at City Hall, and we look forward to having him back. We also interviewed virtually and hired virtually 2 summer interns. Cassandra Lund from Georgia Tech, Mary Beth Dix from UGA will start in some capacity in June on our first comprehensive Milton internship program. For our upcoming events, they right now are to be determined as the situation changes. We are actively planning for Crabapple Fest with Crabapple Community Association. As always, we're working together with the community and all city departments toward continued efforts to have an inclusive, connected community. And Mayor and Council, I just want to thank you for your trust, time, and attention, and I'll turn it back over to Greg to conclude our department's report. Thank you.
Sure, thank you all. I think there's a lot more going on. I think I just encourage people to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and also our website, which we're updating regularly too, to keep up. It's kind of hard to keep up. We're doing our best, and hopefully we thank again to the council, the mayor, and also especially to our citizens who are showing they're more engaged than ever, and we appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Greg and Courtney. Are there any questions or from council?
I have a comment, Mayor.
Okay. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. Hey, I just wanted to thank Greg, specifically the updates on the council agenda. I've gotten a lot of great positive feedback on that from citizens, and sometimes I learn a lot by reading them as well. So, and Courtney, thank you also for identifying the new hires. It's great to hear, you know, that we've got some interns we can work through this new normal with, and it's nice to know of Trisha's coming on board so that when we see her, we can welcome her. So thank you very much.
Okay, Paul.
Thanks, Joe. I want to echo Laura's compliments of both Greg and Courtney. I have to tell you, you guys are doing something, it's nothing short of remarkable. And you look at our social media presence, the activities that you guys are representing that are going on throughout Milton, in spite of the fact that people are having to be sheltering in place. It's the impression of a thriving community as if there was no virus. And it's great to see the Milton community come alive like that. And you guys have been providing a tremendous conduit for everybody else around town to know that these wonderful things are happening, and Milton is rising above the virus to continue our this wonderful sense of place that we've got. So well done by you guys and your team to make sure that Milton is showing alive and well and beating the virus.
Thank you, Paul. I know one of the things is that we're showing that Milton city government never stopped working, and also certainly our citizens have been engaged and out there through this whole process as well. So we're trying to connect as many people.
Clearly demonstrated that the City of Milton resources, the city staff, are the right place to go to get the facts about what's happening in the city. And what better place to go than the source to get those facts? So job well done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. So next, community development, Prague. So, okay, there you go. Prague, you there?
Yes, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Mayor and the City Council, I am Parag Agarwal, City's Community Development Director, and I'm here to present you a brief summary of the various projects which are going on in the department in the last 1 month. These are some of the numbers from April 15th to May 14th. Again, the department was very busy. We reviewed more than 100 permit applications in the last 1 month. That includes zoning reviews, architecture, arborist review, and the soil erosion and the stormwater management reviews. The department issued around 120 building permit applications. We conducted approximately 440 building permit inspections. We conducted around 480 land development inspections, and around 47 tree removal permits were issued. So these are approximately more than around 10 to 15% increase if you look at from the last 1 month. Other major projects update, 2040 comprehensive plan update. We have started working on our 2040 comprehensive plan. Currently, we are constituting the CPAC, which is the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. We have received appointments from, I think, almost all the city council members. So if you have not given us your names, your appointments, please let us know. We are looking to have a first CPAC meeting in the 3rd week of June. Update of the Milton Country Club building renovation. So we gave you a PowerPoint presentation a couple of weeks back to discuss the layout of the Milton Country Club building. I'm very happy to say that the interior demolition and the mold removal remediation work has been completed. There was a bid was out on the street for the exterior demolition and the yard cleanup. The response date was May 14th. We received around 9 bids for the exterior demolition and the yard cleanup work. Giving you the update of public safety complex. As you know, the city architect Bob Buscemi is managing the public safety complex construction. The project is on schedule and on budget. The furniture order has been completed, and the move-in date is scheduled for late August. The design review board meeting. The design review board meeting is scheduled for June 2nd. We do have a very heavy agenda since the design review board did not meet for the last couple of months. We have more than 11 applications on the agenda for June 2nd. The tree preservation ordinance update. We continue to work on the tree conservation ordinance. We have incorporated the feedback given by the city council, and we have also incorporated the feedback that has been received from the city attorney's office. So the tree conservation ordinance will be in front of the city council in the month of June. We do have till July 21st to get the new tree preservation ordinance adopted. The last item which I want to talk about is the Census 2020. Currently, the self-response rate for Milton is around 67%. And in 2010, the self-response rate was around 72%. The field operations and the self-reporting period ends on October 31st, 2020. We want to better the 2010 response rate, especially with the online option new to 2020 census. Generally, most of the census tracts in Milton are reporting between 65% to 82% response rate. We do have one census tract along Winford Parkway, where the census tract has a response rate of only 41%. So we are basically targeting that particular census tract that has a response rate of only 41% to improve our response rate we are shooting for around 80 to 90% of response rate in the city of Milton. So if you have any public meetings, please let the Milton residents know how useful and how important it is to respond to the census. That's pretty much it from my side. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Parag. Is there any questions? No, well, and I want to say this, and this goes to all our staff, just like talked to Greg and Courtney earlier. It's amazing that you guys, Parag and your team, have when you listed all the items that have been completed this month. It's amazing with everything shut down and virtual and all that our city staff's been able to accomplish all that. So thanks to everybody on that. We'll move on to police. Chief Austin.
Greetings, Mayor, members of council. Very happy to report that operations are going well within the police department, even amid the COVID-19 crisis. Though, as you know, we've had to temporarily suspend some services such as fingerprinting and hosting community events and classes. Our essential services in the field have been largely uninterrupted, albeit with necessary changes in operations. As shown in this slide, our overall calls for service have trended downward significantly since March in comparison to the same time frame in 2019. This pragmatically coincides with the beginning of precautions taken due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as for less, we redirected our officers to maintain high visibility in our neighborhoods in an effort to make our citizens feel safe and just to reinforce that we were still out there to provide our essential services. We also wanted to ensure our businesses, especially those that have had to close for an extended period, that they had an extra level of patrol as well. I've been asked a few times about our COVID-19 related calls for such things as social distancing or business violations. We've been tracking those, and there have only been a handful of calls regarding perceived violations, and those were all resolved amicably through public education and or citizen cooperation. We've continued to routinely patrol our parks as they have reopened, and our observation there is that by and large, citizens are following the social distancing guidelines very diligently. We've had to take zero enforcement action regarding this anywhere in the city. And that's certainly a testament to our outstanding citizens. Their overall altruistic approach to this crisis and their understanding just speaks volumes. So I certainly want to thank our citizens for that. It's very much appreciated by the police department. I'd also like to thank our citizens for the overwhelming support they've provided the department during the last several weeks. The outpouring of support from individuals, businesses, the Milton First Responders Foundation, all of it has just been simply overwhelming. We've had meals delivered from local businesses, homemade masks made for our officers and non-sworn employees, and believe it or not, even a few donuts were dropped off. So not sure they were tipped off we like donuts, but they sure went fast. But as I stated, we fortunately had to, unfortunately, temporarily had to suspend in-person community meetings, programs, and classes, and we look forward to a time of being able to offer those again. However, as Greg stated, we've been able to stay in communication with our citizens through other means. Thanks in part to our wonderful communications department. We've been very engaged on our social media platforms, both in getting out vital information as the crisis unfolds and in celebrating special events going on within the community, such as graduations, milestone birthdays, and even reuniting a lost dog with its family. There we go. That was a great day for us when we were able to reunite this fellow with his family. So maybe a future canine day there, who knows. On a side note, the department's efforts were recognized on a national police website, which highlighted ideas for state engagement with communities during the crisis. So thank you again, our partners in the Milton Communications Department. They've been very supportive and helping us maintain a very high level of social media presence and connection with the community during this time. So thank you for that. On a bit more serious note, one of the outreach activities that we look forward to each year is National Police Week, which this year fell May 10th through May 16th. During this week, as you probably recall, we typically hold events such as Coffee with a Cop, free shredding event, and we conduct various classes. We also usually celebrate with the community during our departmental award ceremony, and then culminate the week in a ceremony honoring the Georgia officers that died in the line of duty the previous year. So without the opportunity to meet together, we had to get a bit creative. This year, we commemorated Police Week through various social media posts of Milton police officers sharing why they chose to serve in our great city. We also highlighted some of our internal functions, such as the Criminal Investigations Division, and we then culminated the week with a virtually presented fallen officers ceremony, remembering the lives of the 7 officers that gave the ultimate sacrifice serving communities throughout Georgia during 2019. We were just very honored and humbled to present that commemoration to our community. And our goal is to hold the award ceremony later in the year when we can hopefully, and I stress hopefully, gather together as a community to celebrate the accomplishments of our staff. And with that, that's all I have this evening. Thank you, and I'm certainly available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief Austin. Is there any questions for the police chief?
And just a quick, thank you. And I know other council members have mentioned tonight the, amped up use of specifically Wood Road. And I'd just like to thank Chief Austin and his team, specifically the public safety officer, for keeping check on, the use. And there's a lot more people with a lot more time, and they're flocking to Wood Road, and we know that, but having your presence there certainly helps. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Appreciate everything. And if there's nothing else, that will conclude tonight's meeting. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, and I'll go individually, but aye. Councilmember Cookerly?
Aye.
Bentley?
Aye.
Morrig?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
And Moore?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.